Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a new theatrical release, The War with Grandpa. Before we begin, let me know in the comments if you were looking forward to this or what your thoughts are if you've seen it already, and make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews. It helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, whether it be blockbusters, hidden gems, or everything in between, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. But now, let's jump right into it. This film stars Oakes Fegley as Peter, who's forced to give up his room when his grandfather Ed, played by Robert De Niro, moves in. Peter cherished his room dearly and sets up a series of pranks on Ed so that he'd get fed up and move out, allowing him to get his room back. However, Ed has a few tricks of his own and begins to fight back, leading to an all-out war. This is actually based on a novel of the same name, which I didn't know about until I saw the movie, and it's directed by Tim Hill, who also gave us the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, and Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties. And it contains quite a cast, including De Niro, Uma Thurman, Rob Riggle, Cheech Marin, Jane Seymour, and Christopher Walken. And this is De Niro's first movie after The Irishman. And I'm sure the question on all your minds right now is, what were they thinking here? This reminds me of movies from the 90s and the early 2000s where it would be this formula of famous actor meets rambunctious kid, like Cheaper by the Dozen, Daddy Daycare, and The Pacifier, among many others. These silly family comedies where the stern lead actor finds himself outwitted by the rowdy children in some way. I didn't think we'd get movies like these anymore, but here we are. This is pretty much everything you'd expect it to be. It's De Niro and his grandson engaged in a series of Home Alone-style pranks where they're essentially trying to make life hell for the other one in the most over-the-top way possible. You'll have scenes like De Niro taking out all the screws in his grandson's room so everything collapses, as well as scenes of De Niro's hands getting stuck to a jar full of marbles because glue is placed on the jar, and the jar breaks and the marbles fall out and he slips on them in a very comical manner. This is the main type of joke used throughout the movie, which is actually mind-boggling to me, because De Niro is subject to so many pratfalls here, and they'll be in the most ridiculous ways that I don't know how his character didn't get more severely injured than he did. I mean, I'm sure he didn't do his own stunts or anything, but the man's 77, and we don't know exactly how old his character is here, but if we were to just accept he's around that same age, then there's no way he wouldn't be able to take the beating he takes and just bounce back like that with no problem. Like, he'll be fine a scene later, and it just makes no sense. And the same thing with Cheech Marin and Christopher Walken, who are both around that same age. They're De Niro's two friends who end up helping him out in this fight. And they'll also take beatings, they'll fall down, they'll get knocked around, and sometimes there's barely a scratch, and I don't get it. Mainly because the film tries going back and forth in tone between these cartoonish pranks and then taking on this sweeter side where you're suddenly supposed to take it seriously. There's a subplot between De Niro and Uma Thurman. She's his daughter, and he doesn't particularly care that she married Rob Riggle, which is kind of an odd pairing when you think of it. And there are a few scenes where they'll touch upon this subplot so they can relate it to another subplot where Thurman's daughter is trying to sneak off with a boy every time we see her, though the way it's handled here, it really doesn't go anywhere. It tries to give us this message about the importance of family, but the way it's just jammed in between these scenes of De Niro and his grandson pranking each other, it makes it feel like an afterthought as a result. You'll sometimes not see the daughter for a very long time, and it's mainly just to make some sort of joke about her sneaking off. And I know this is based on a novel, so it could be in there, but the way they sporadically just go back to these moments, sometimes for a quick second, it just makes it feel tacked on. It's also sometimes hard to push the family message because it does feel a little mean-spirited. I mean, this kid tries ruining his grandpa's life because his parents kicked him out of his room. The funny thing is, there's even a scene at the beginning where De Niro sits him down and tells him he doesn't even truly want to be there, and he had no part in the decision-making, and the kid decides to go after him anyway. They try to do this running gag where the kid will tell him, "Grandpa, I still love you," in between pranks, and it's meant to be something that's played for laughs to try to make things seem okay, but the fact that this kid goes after his grandpa for something that's totally out of his control doesn't exactly make him sympathetic. I mean, he's not totally unlikable, especially because Oakes Fegley gives a solid performance, but I was rooting for De Niro here. I will say though, despite all this, the film isn't abysmal, and I actually found myself laughing a few times, mainly due to De Niro, Walken, and Marin. I thought they had some fun chemistry with each other, and they all just seemed like they were having a blast with this. De Niro plays up the tough guy persona he's known for in so many of his other movies, and I gotta admit, whenever he did that, it was actually really funny. He makes a lot of snide remarks that had me laughing a number of times. Same goes for Marin and Walken. I enjoyed whenever they'd egg De Niro on whenever they meet up, and I think the concept of Christopher Walken just being this petty old man who enjoys playing pranks and relishing whenever De Niro would tell him how he got the one up on this kid was just hilarious. Specifically because it's Christopher Walken. His delivery when he'd get all giddy over something would turn generic dialogue into something very funny. The first half of the movie is mostly made up of moments like this. And for a moment, I thought I was actually going to go into this review saying this was the most misunderstood movie of the year. I was actually shocked by the amount of times in the beginning where I was laughing hard at De Niro talking to his grandson like he was in an actual war, coming up with battle plans. I think if they toned down some of the more unbelievable moments, like De Niro falling off the side of his house and kept it more to these petty old man acting tough moments, this may have been a much more enjoyable movie. Though by the halfway point, it goes all in on the cartoonish humor, and it would just get really stale as it was scene after scene of characters falling or getting hit. Although it then takes a hard turn in the third act, which is its most drastic tonal shift. Without spoiling anything, it suddenly drops all humor and goes all in on these overly sentimental moments that drive home that family message. But it takes itself so seriously that it ends up coming off really cheesy, and it's just so jarring from the rest of the movie. Not that the rest of the movie was exactly strong, and to be clear, there were some of these serious moments sprinkled in, but the fact it just took this huge shift from being ridiculous for 2/3 of the movie to sappy in the last act made for a very uneven experience. So it ended up not really working. But this is a movie that's obviously aimed at kids with the jokes that it goes for, so all that being said, jokes of characters getting tossed around and over-the-top matters will probably be something they'll enjoy, and the stuff about the importance of family, while uneven, is harmless enough that they may get something out of it. So for them, this might actually be a good time, but if you're not in that target audience, this definitely won't work for you. This is pretty much the movie you would expect it to be. While there were some legitimate laughs thanks to some committed performances from De Niro, Walken, and Maron, it's mostly uninspired. It keeps going back and forth between over-the-top physical humor that isn't all that original, as well as a message about family that felt so tacked on that it was sometimes hard to believe. Young kids will probably enjoy this, but for adults, this might be a bit of a chore to get through. The War with Grandpa gets a 5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see The War with Grandpa, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you find it funny? Did you like the cast? And what's your favorite Robert De Niro movie? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.